What I do, YouTube watchers? My name is JT, and I have multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis, yeah. So I came around a video that kind of caught my eye, and it's about my eye was like real blurry last week, and I was kind of get scared. It's done it before, but this time it was really bad. And then throughout the day, it got better. I could see better, but then later on that night, it was blurry again, basically. And I found this video. I only watched half of it, and I wanted you guys to watch it with me. It's like 12 minutes long. I know it's long, but if you want to learn something, hey, you gotta pay attention. So we're gonna go ahead and go ahead and watch this video. God, excuse me, guys. My speech is terrible today. But anyway, we're gonna go and we're gonna watch this video on YouTube. I am anyway. So yeah, this tells you a lot. So check it out.
If you live with multiple sclerosis, you've probably had a day like this. You wake up in the morning and you're doing great, you're killing it. Partway through the afternoon, however, your vision starts to get blurry again. Your leg starts to get numb and tingly. Your speech starts to slow down. And then to make matters worse, your girlfriend says, "What's wrong with you, honey? I saw you this morning. You seemed fine then. What's changed?" Howdy. Thanks for learning about MS with me, Aaron Boster. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why that phenomenon happens. And more importantly, you're going to be able to explain it to your friends and family. I'm going to explain that to you using the model of a swimming pool. Now don't turn away, because all of that starts right now. I draw a swimming pool on the whiteboard in the clinic room as I onboard all patients to the Boster Center for MS. I do that because I have never found a model that does a better job of explaining the course of multiple sclerosis and the rationale for treatment. It's super useful. I did not invent this work. It was developed by a good friend of mine and a full professor of neurology and an MS expert at Mount Sinai in New York, a friend of mine named Dr. Stephen Krieger. Dr. Krieger calls this the topographical model for multiple sclerosis, and it's truly brilliant. I oftentimes in clinic refer to it as the leaky pool model. So let's spend a few minutes while I set up and build the pool. What you see in front of you is the cross-section of a swimming pool. Now, I'm not going to quit my day job, but you can see the deep end of the pool, the shallow end of the pool, and the floor of the pool. The water level of the pool we refer to as the clinical threshold. Things above the water level you're aware of, like your legs numb or your vision's blurry. Things below the water level you're not aware of, but I can see it on the MRI. The amount of water in the pool is really important, and it references the functional reserve, otherwise referred to as the neurological reserve. The functional reserve is your nervous system's ability to withstand an insult. Not an insult like you're ugly, like an insult like you didn't sleep last night, or you have a fever, infection, it's during your menstrual cycle, you're under a significant stressor. Something where your nervous system has to grapple with that. And the more water in the pool, the better the functional reserve. So you can see there's a larger functional reserve at the deep end of the pool compared to the shallow end. The floor of the pool is a graphic representation of your central nervous system, brain, spinal cord. And you see we divide the floor in thirds. On the far left side, in the shallow end of the pool, that third has the smallest functional reserve. It's the part of your nervous system that's at the highest risk for damage. This represents the optic nerves and the spinal cord. Why? Because the optic nerves are super small. They're thinner than my pinky, and you only have one over here and one over here. And if it takes a hit, there's no secondary pathway. There's no alternative optic nerve to get light from your eye back into your brain. Similarly, the spinal cord takes all the information from the supercomputer, the brain, that's really big, and it funnels it down into something that's literally thinner than my two fingers. So if it takes a hit, it doesn't go unnoticed. On the far right side of the swimming pool, in the deep end, that's where we have the largest functional reserve. This part of your nervous system can deal with insults and rewire without making you aware. This part of the brain, literally, you can have hundreds of lesions and not know it because your brain just keeps rewiring. This is the hemispheres or the lobes, the top of the brain. Now, the middle third is more flexible, has a better functional reserve than the shallow end, but it's not as good as the deep end. And that middle section is the brain stem, the base of your brain. I'm first going to explain this model from the lens of relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. After I do that, we're going to revisit the model from the lens of primary progressive MS. So when thinking about relapsing MS, someone has an attack, a flare, an exacerbation, a relapse. That's all the same thing. And let's say that the person had a relapse of left eye optic neuritis, where it hurt when they moved their eye and they couldn't see very well. On the model, we would go to the section where the optic nerve is represented on the
Yeah, last week this eye was so blurry. It scared me so much.
far left of the screen in that shallow end of the pool, and we would draw a stalagmite starting at the floor of the pool and going up through the pool, cresting the surface of the water above the surface of the water. It's above the clinical threshold because you're very aware that you can't see and it hurts when you move your eye. And then let's say that we give you steroids, we give you IV steroids to hasten your recovery, and thank God you get your vision back. So it's gone now. We would redraw the drawing where we would lower the stalagmite below the surface of the water. We draw it that way because you no longer have the vision problems. It's clinically no longer apparent, but I can still see the damage on the MRI. Now let's take a situation where we get a routine screening MRI. And we see a new spot, although you didn't have an associated attack. That spot was asymptomatic. Here we would draw a stalagmite, but we would keep the top of it under the water because you weren't clinically aware of it. Lastly, we'll take an example of an attack where you didn't recover. We would draw a stalagmite that crests the surface of the water and it stays above the water level because that's now a chronic symptom that you're kind of stuck with. Now, we're going to use this model to teach a couple really important things. The first thing is that the water level literally bobs over the course of the day. You wake up with all the energy you're going to have, but in this setting of multiple sclerosis, you use it up really fast. And as you start your day and as you start to use up your energy, the water level falls and it uncovers those areas of damage. You literally short circuit your spinal cord. And so as you go through your day and the water level falls, some of your old symptoms may come back out. Then when you take a nap and you replenish your functional reserve, the water level goes back up and that symptom goes away. So you can literally see fluctuations in your baseline symptoms over the course of a single day. The same thing can happen if you go outside in the heat. You're in the air conditioning in your home and you go outside to enjoy the Rib Fest on a weekend in the summer and it's hot outside. The water level plummets, your old symptoms come back out. When you drag yourself inside to the air conditioning, the water level goes back up. The reason this is so important to understand is very few conditions fluctuate like this, where you can have changes in the course of a day. And if you didn't understand that, you might think that you're going cuckoo. Why was I doing okay earlier today and now I'm having a problem? Or even worse, your friends and family can kind of call you a liar and say, honey, you were fine earlier, why are you having trouble now? Well, you were fine earlier and you are having trouble now. And it's because of fluctuations in the water level. The second thing that I want to explain is that I call this the leaky pool model of multiple sclerosis because the water is slowly draining from the pool. The functional reserve, the amount of water in the pool, is a direct correlate to brain volume, to how big your brain is. All brains shrink a little bit each year, the same way that our skin gets thinner as we age or we shrink a little bit in height as we age. Yeah. But in the setting of untreated or undertreated MS, the brain can shrink upwards of 10 times faster. And the fast shrinkage of the brain correlates with the water level falling faster. If we fast forward this story 10 years, we have to draw the water level as having dropped. And watch what happens. As the water level drops year over year, we start to uncover those areas of damage. Those areas of damage, they wear out faster than the healthy tissue around it. And what happens clinically is you can see progression of disability separate from an attack as the water level falls, as the brain shrinks, as those areas wear out. So in relapsing MS, we're really fighting two things. We're fighting attacks where we might not fully recover, and we're fighting the areas of damage wearing out, causing progression as you age. Those are both really important. Before I move on, I want to shift gears and I want to think about the same model from the perspective of primary progressive MS.
Okay, hopefully you guys got something out of that. It's a long video, and that he was talking about the what I have the uh was it relapse remitting? Yeah, that's it. And then he was getting into about primary MS. I can't think right now, but hopefully you guys got some out of this. I'm sorry, I'm just out of there. I'm spaced out today. I hope everybody's having a good day, and remember, be good or be good at it.